They whispered about the quiet woman who cleaned their mats after training sessions, never imagining she once held a title that would make their knees buckle. Elena Vasquez moved through the Golden Dragon Martial Arts Academy like a shadow, her worn sneakers silent against the polished floors as she wiped down equipment and straightened uniforms hanging in neat rows. The other students barely acknowledged her presence, too absorbed in their own pursuit of colored belts and tournament trophies to notice the woman who made their training possible. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Master Chen's prestigious academy in downtown Portland attracted the city's elite martial artists, weekend warriors with expensive gear and fragile egos, who paid premium rates for the illusion of ancient wisdom. The dojo buzzed with the constant chatter of corporate executives discussing their latest acquisitions between kata practice, their designer GIS crisp and spotless, their movements precise but lacking the fluid grace that comes from years of genuine dedication. Elena had been working there for 6 months, a necessity born from desperation rather than choice. Her daughter Sofia needed stability, a roof over her head, and consistency in her young life after too many years of uncertainty. The janitorial position at the academy offered exactly what Elena craved: anonymity and steady income, even if it meant swallowing her pride, as accomplished fighters dismissed her as invisible help. The evening air in the academy carried the familiar scent of determination mixed with sweat, leather, and the faint aroma of the jasmine tea Master Chen served to his most dedicated students. Elena methodically folded towels in the supply closet, her movements economical and practiced, when the sound of raised voices drew her attention to the main training floor. Marcus Sterling dominated the center of the mat, his black belt tied with the precise knots that spoke of years spent perfecting not just technique but the image of mastery. At 35, he commanded respect through a combination of legitimate skill and carefully cultivated intimidation, his pharmaceutical company providing the financial freedom to train extensively and compete internationally. His presence filled the room with an energy that demanded attention, his every gesture calculated to reinforce his position at the top of the academy's unofficial hierarchy. Master Chen, a man whose 70 years had taught him the value of observing before speaking, watched from his elevated platform as Marcus demonstrated a complex throwing technique to a small group of brown and black belts. The elderly instructor's weathered hands remained folded in his lap, his expression neutral despite the growing tension that permeated the space. "The key to dominance in competition," Marcus announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to boardroom presentations, "is psychological warfare before physical engagement. Your opponent needs to understand their inferiority before the match begins." His demonstration partner, a nervous brown belt named David, nodded enthusiastically despite the obvious discomfort in his posture. Elena continued her work, muscle memory guiding her hands as she organized supplies, while her attention remained fixed on the conversation. Something about Marcus's tone triggered old instincts, the same warning signals that had once meant the difference between life and death in very different circumstances. "Take stance evaluation, for instance," Marcus continued, adjusting David's posture with unnecessary force. "A weak foundation reveals everything about a fighter's limitations. Most people telegraph their vulnerabilities through improper weight distribution, defensive positioning, or hesitant movement patterns." Quote, he paused, scanning the room for additional validation of his expertise. The other students murmured agreement, their deference born from a combination of genuine respect for his tournament record and the subtle financial influence he wielded within the academy's social structure. Marcus had sponsored several competitions and funded equipment upgrades, creating an environment where challenging his authority seemed both unwise and ungrateful. Elena's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly as she listened to his analysis. His understanding was technically accurate but fundamentally flawed, the kind of surface-level knowledge that mistook memorized concepts for lived experience. She had encountered countless fighters like Marcus during her previous life, men who collected techniques like trophies without understanding the deeper principles that transformed mere movement into effective combat. "I could identify a pretender's limitations within seconds of observing their stance," Marcus boasted, executing a perfect throw that sent David tumbling across the mat with practiced precision. True martial artists develop an instinct for recognizing authenticity versus imitation. It becomes almost amusing to watch inexperienced individuals attempt techniques beyond their capability. Master Chen's expression remained carefully neutral, though Elena caught a slight tightening around his eyes that suggested displeasure with the direction of the conversation. The elderly instructor had built his academy's reputation on principles of humility and continuous learning, values that seemed increasingly at odds with Marcus's public displays of superiority. The demonstration concluded with Marcus accepting congratulations from his audience, their praise reinforcing the ego that drove his need for constant validation. As the group began dispersing toward the changing areas, Elena emerged from the supply closet with an armload of fresh towels, her timing designed to avoid unnecessary interaction with the departing students. Marcus noticed her movement, his attention drawn by the fluid efficiency of her steps, despite her obvious attempt to remain unobtrusive. Something about her gait triggered his analytical instincts, though he dismissed the observation as irrelevant given her obvious position within the academy's hierarchy. "Excuse me," he called out, his tone carrying the casual authority of someone accustomed to immediate responses. Elena paused, her expression politely attentive, despite the internal tension his address created. "I don't believe we've been properly introduced." Marcus Sterling. He extended his hand with the confidence of someone who expected recognition. "Elena," she replied simply, accepting the handshake with a grip that lasted exactly the appropriate duration before withdrawing. Her voice carried no trace of accent, despite her Hispanic surname, the result of years spent deliberately neutralizing any characteristics that might draw unwanted attention or speculation about her background. Marcus studied her face with the intensity he typically reserved for analyzing potential opponents, searching for signs of recognition or intimidation. Elena's expression remained pleasantly blank, offering no indication that his name or reputation carried any significance in her world. "Have you been training here long?" he asked, his question carrying an undertone of skepticism about her presence in such an exclusive establishment. The Golden Dragon Academy's membership fees and training costs effectively filtered out most casual practitioners, creating an environment where everyone typically possessed either significant financial resources or exceptional talent. "I work here," Elena replied, gesturing slightly toward the cleaning supplies that clearly identified her role. Her response carried no shame or defensiveness, merely a statement of fact delivered with the quiet dignity of someone comfortable with their circumstances. "Ah," Marcus nodded, his interest immediately diminishing as he placed her within his mental framework of the Academy's staff hierarchy. "Well, welcome to the Golden Dragon family. Master Chen runs an exceptional facility." His tone shifted to the polite but distant register he reserved for service personnel, acknowledging her presence while establishing clear social boundaries. Elena inclined her head slightly in acknowledgement before continuing toward her destination, her movement resuming the same efficient pattern that had initially caught his attention. Marcus watched her progress for a moment longer, that nagging sense of familiarity continuing to tug at his consciousness before he dismissed it as irrelevant. The Academy's evening classes concluded with Master Chen's traditional closing ceremony, a brief meditation followed by the respectful bowing that honored both instructors and training partners. As students filed out toward the parking garage, their conversations focused on upcoming tournaments and weekend training camps, Elena began her systematic cleaning routine. The main training floor required careful attention, each section swept and mopped to maintain the pristine standards that justified the Academy's premium pricing. Elena worked methodically, her movements economical and practiced, while her mind processed the evening's interactions and the growing concern about maintaining her carefully constructed anonymity. Sofia would be finishing her homework by now, probably curled up on their small apartment's second-hand couch with the math workbook that challenged her 9-year-old mind. Elena's daughter possessed the same quiet intensity that had once driven her mother's pursuit of excellence, though channeled toward academic achievement rather than physical confrontation. The contrast between Elena's current circumstances and her previous life created a constant undercurrent of tension, the knowledge that she possessed capabilities that could dramatically alter their situation warring with the desperate need to maintain the stability that Sofia required. Every instinct developed through years of competition and combat urged her to reclaim her identity, while every maternal instinct demanded continued sacrifice for her daughter's safety and normalcy. Master Chen approached as Elena finished securing the training equipment, his footsteps deliberately audible to avoid startling her. The elderly instructor had developed an appreciation for her work ethic and attention to detail, qualities that reflected the same discipline he tried to instill in his students. "Elena," he said quietly, his accent carrying traces of his Taiwanese origins despite decades spent in America. A moment, if you please." His tone carried the gentle authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed through respect rather than fear. Elena turned to face him, her expression attentive despite the fatigue that made her shoulders ache after another long day of maintaining everyone else's training environment. Master Chen's weathered features carried the kind of wisdom that comes from surviving challenges that most people could never imagine, though his current concerns seemed focused on more immediate matters. "Marcus Sterling is a skilled fighter," he began carefully, choosing his words with the precision of someone who understood the weight of casual statements. "His tournament record speaks to legitimate ability, and his financial support has benefited many students." He paused, studying Elena's face for any reaction to his assessment. Elena nodded politely, offering no opinion about Marcus's character or capabilities despite the growing certainty that his reputation exceeded his actual skill level. Master Chen's diplomatic approach suggested deeper concerns about the dynamic that was developing within his academy. "However," the instructor continued, his voice dropping slightly, "pride can corrupt even genuine talent. The true measure of a martial artist lies not in their ability to dominate others, but in their willingness to continue learning." His eyes held Elena's gaze with an intensity that suggested this conversation carried significance beyond simple philosophical discussion. "I understand, Master Chen," Elena replied, her tone respectful but non-committal. She had learned through bitter experience that involving herself in other people's conflicts rarely ended well, regardless of how justified her intervention might seem. The elderly instructor nodded slowly, apparently satisfied with her response despite its careful neutrality. "Thank you for maintaining our training environment so beautifully. The students benefit from your dedication, even when they fail to acknowledge it properly." His words carried subtle criticism of the evening's interactions, though delivered with characteristic diplomacy. Elena bowed slightly in acknowledgement before gathering her cleaning supplies and heading toward the storage area. "Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story." Master Chen watched her departure with the same analytical attention he brought to evaluating potential students, though his assessment focused on qualities that had nothing to do with martial arts technique. The Golden Dragon Academy settled into its evening quiet as Elena completed her final tasks and prepared to leave for the night. The building's sophisticated security system would protect the equipment and trophies that represented years of dedicated training, while she returned to the modest apartment where her real treasures waited. Sofia greeted her mother's return with the enthusiastic hug that made every sacrifice worthwhile, her homework completed and dinner prepared with the independence that came from necessity rather than choice. They shared their simple meal while discussing the day's events, Elena listening to stories about teachers and classmates while carefully avoiding any mention of her own workplace interactions. The evening routine proceeded with comfortable familiarity, Sofia's bath followed by bedtime stories that transported them both to worlds where heroes always triumphed and justice prevailed. Elena tucked her daughter into bed with the same gentle care she brought to every aspect of their shared life, her love manifest in countless small actions that created security and warmth. Later, alone in the apartment's small living room, Elena allowed herself a few minutes of honest reflection about the day's events. Marcus Sterling represented the kind of challenge she had once relished, his arrogance and casual cruelty triggering instincts that demanded correction. The old Elena would have found ways to humble him without revealing her own capabilities, teaching lessons through carefully orchestrated demonstrations that exposed his limitations. But that woman existed in a different life, one that had ended in tragedy and forced transformation. The current Elena prioritized her daughter's needs above her own satisfaction, choosing invisible endurance over dangerous pride. The cost of maintaining that choice grew heavier with each passing day, though the alternative remained unthinkable. Tomorrow would bring another shift at the academy, another opportunity to observe Marcus's interactions with students who deserved better instruction and treatment. Elena would continue cleaning their mats and organizing their equipment while watching talented fighters develop bad habits under the guidance of someone who mistook dominance for mastery. The irony was not lost on her that she possessed the knowledge and experience to help them, to provide the kind of instruction that could transform promising students into exceptional martial artists. Instead, she remained relegated to the margins, her expertise hidden behind the carefully constructed persona of someone who cleaned up after their training sessions. Elena's reflection was interrupted by Sofia's voice calling from the bedroom, a request for water delivered with the sleepy confusion that sometimes accompanied the transition to dreams. She responded immediately, her maternal instincts overriding any other consideration as she tended to her daughter's needs. Standing in the darkened hallway afterward, Elena reminded herself why she endured Marcus Sterling's arrogance and the Academy's casual dismissal of her humanity. Sofia deserved stability, education, and the chance to pursue her own dreams without the shadows of her mother's past threatening their future. The price of that gift was Elena's continued silence, even when every fiber of her being demanded action. Tomorrow she would return to the Golden Dragon Academy, invisible and unnoticed, while the man who had never faced real adversity continued teaching others about strength and dominance. But circumstances have a way of forcing choices that careful planning tries to avoid, and Elena's carefully maintained anonymity was about to collide with Marcus Sterling's need to prove his superiority. The quiet woman who cleaned their mats carried secrets that would soon shatter more than just his ego, though the cost of that revelation remained to be seen. The Academy's neon sign flickered in the Portland night, casting intermittent shadows across the empty street as Elena finally allowed exhaustion to claim her. Tomorrow would test the delicate balance she had worked so hard to maintain, though she could not yet imagine how completely her world was about to change. In her dreams that night, Elena found herself back in competition rings, where the crowd's energy fed her determination and every technique carried the weight of years spent perfecting her craft. She woke before dawn with phantom muscle memory singing through her limbs, the echo of a life that still called to her despite everything she had sacrificed to leave it behind. The alarm clock's harsh buzz brought her back to reality, to another day of invisible servitude in a place where her true capabilities would remain hidden. Elena rose to begin their morning routine, preparing Sofia for school, while mentally steeling herself for whatever challenges the Golden Dragon Academy might present. She had no way of knowing that this particular day would strip away every carefully constructed layer of anonymity she had built, exposing the warrior beneath the janitor's uniform in ways that would forever alter the trajectory of both their lives. The morning sunlight filtered through the Golden Dragon Academy's tall windows, casting geometric patterns across the polished training floor as Elena arrived for her afternoon shift. The academy operated with military precision during peak hours, each class scheduled to maximize both training efficiency and revenue generation. Elena's responsibilities began after the lunch break, when the morning's corporate clients yielded the space to afternoon recreational classes and private instruction sessions. She moved through her initial preparations with practiced efficiency, checking supply levels and ensuring training equipment remained properly maintained. The Academy's reputation depended partly on these invisible details, the seamless operation that allowed students to focus entirely on their martial arts development without distraction from environmental concerns. Master Chen greeted her arrival with his characteristic nod of acknowledgement, a gesture that conveyed respect, despite their obvious differences in status within the Academy's hierarchy. The elderly instructor spent most afternoons observing classes and providing individual guidance to students who demonstrated exceptional dedication or struggled with particular techniques. "Today brings an interesting visitor," Master Chen mentioned, as Elena organized fresh towels near the main training area. His tone carried subtle warning, the kind of diplomatic alert that suggested potential complications without explicitly stating concerns. Elena glanced up from her work, noting the slight tension in the instructor's posture that indicated more than casual interest in the afternoon schedule. Master Chen rarely involved himself in administrative announcements unless circumstances warranted special attention. "Marcus has arranged a demonstration for several potential investors," he continued, his choice of words carefully neutral, despite obvious reservations about the event. "They represent a chain of martial arts schools considering franchise opportunities with our methods and curriculum." The implications crystallized immediately in Elena's mind. Marcus Sterling was leveraging his position within the academy to pursue business opportunities that could dramatically expand his influence and financial resources. The demonstration would showcase his skills while positioning him as the primary representative of Master Chen's teaching philosophy and methods. Elena nodded politely, understanding that her role during such events required even greater invisibility than usual. Potential investors would evaluate every aspect of the Academy's operation, from training quality to facility maintenance, making her performance part of the overall impression that could determine significant financial outcomes. "I shall ensure everything remains pristine," she assured Master Chen, though something in his expression suggested his concerns extended beyond simple facility management. The afternoon classes proceeded normally until approximately 3 o'clock, when a small group of well-dressed individuals arrived and were escorted to the academy's observation area. Elena recognized the behavioral patterns of successful business people evaluating investment opportunities, their attention focused on quantifiable metrics and profit potential rather than martial arts philosophy. Marcus appeared shortly afterward, his GI immaculate and his demeanor radiating the confident authority he cultivated for important occasions. He greeted the visitors with practiced charm, seamlessly transitioning between technical explanations and business-focused discussions about market penetration and revenue projections. Elena continued her duties while monitoring the demonstration through peripheral observation, noting how Marcus positioned himself as both skilled practitioner and business visionary. His technique remained impressive by conventional standards, though she detected subtle flaws that suggested limitations in his foundational understanding. The demonstration began with basic kata, Marcus executing traditional forms with precision that satisfied the uninformed observers while revealing defensive habits to Elena's trained eye. His movements prioritized visual impact over practical application, emphasizing dramatic techniques that would impress spectators rather than prove effective in genuine confrontation. Several academy students participated as training partners, allowing Marcus to demonstrate throwing techniques and defensive applications. Elena watched him guide newer students through partner drills, his instruction competent but lacking the deeper insights that transformed mere technique memorization into genuine martial arts mastery. The key to successful martial arts instruction, Marcus explained to his audience, lies in establishing clear hierarchies based on demonstrable skill levels. Students respond positively to instructors who can prove their superiority through direct demonstration. His words carried the conviction of someone who genuinely believed his own marketing presentations. Elena's cleaning brought her closer to the training area as Marcus continued his exposition, describing his competition record and tournament achievements while seamlessly integrating sales pitches for franchise opportunities. The visiting investors took notes and asked questions about market demographics and expansion timelines. Would anyone like to participate in a brief training demonstration? Marcus offered, scanning his audience for potential volunteers. I find that hands-on experience provides better understanding than theoretical explanation alone. His invitation carried the practiced confidence of someone accustomed to controlled interactions with inexperienced participants. One of the investors, a middle-aged woman wearing expensive athletic wear, stepped forward with obvious curiosity. I've always been interested in self-defense training, she admitted, accepting Marcus's guidance as he positioned her for a basic throwing demonstration. Elena paused in her work to observe the interaction, noting how Marcus adjusted his technique to ensure successful execution while maintaining the appearance of spontaneous instruction. The demonstration proceeded smoothly, with the investor successfully completing a simple hip throw under Marcus's careful guidance. Excellent form for a beginner, Marcus praised, helping his volunteer return to her feet with theatrical gallantry. Natural athletes often demonstrate immediate aptitude for martial arts principles. His compliment served dual purposes, flattering the potential investor while reinforcing his own expertise as an instructor. The group responded positively to the interactive demonstration, their enthusiasm building, as Marcus continued explaining how his teaching methods could be systematically replicated across multiple franchise locations. Elena recognized the sales technique, creating emotional investment through personal participation before transitioning to financial discussions. The beauty of our system, Marcus continued, lies in its ability to identify and develop talent at every level. Even individuals with no previous experience can achieve remarkable progress under proper guidance. He gestured toward the Academy's trophy display, visual evidence of the success his methods had produced. Elena returned her attention to organizing equipment storage, though she remained peripherally aware of the ongoing presentation. Marcus's confidence seemed to grow with his audience's positive reception, his natural showmanship amplified by the prospect of significant business expansion. I'd be happy to provide individual assessments for anyone interested in understanding their natural aptitude, Marcus offered, his proposal designed to create additional interaction opportunities while demonstrating his analytical capabilities. Another investor, a younger man whose expensive watch suggested substantial financial resources, accepted the offer with competitive enthusiasm. I've been curious about my potential in this area, he admitted, removing his jacket and preparing to participate in Marcus's evaluation process. Elena watched as Marcus guided his new volunteer through basic stance and movement exercises, providing commentary that combined legitimate technical instruction with calculated psychology designed to build confidence and interest. The demonstration revealed Marcus's genuine skill at reading people and adapting his approach to their personalities and motivations. "Your natural balance suggests strong potential for throwing techniques," Marcus assessed, positioning his volunteer for another controlled demonstration. "Many successful martial artists begin with similar physical foundations." His analysis carried enough technical accuracy to sound authoritative while remaining safely generic. The training session continued with Marcus demonstrating various techniques using academy students as partners, each exchange carefully choreographed to showcase his skills while maintaining complete safety for the participating investors. Elena admired the performance aspect of his presentation, even while recognizing its fundamentally deceptive nature. As the formal demonstration concluded, the visitors gathered around Marcus to discuss business details and franchise agreements. Elena seized the opportunity to complete cleaning tasks in the main training area, working efficiently while the group remained focused on their negotiations. Her movement patterns brought her within earshot of their conversation, though she maintained careful attention to her assigned duties. The investors expressed genuine enthusiasm for Marcus's business proposal. Their questions focused on implementation timelines and profit projections, rather than martial arts authenticity. "The market research supports tremendous growth potential," one investor noted, reviewing documents on his tablet computer. "Martial arts instruction represents a recession-proof industry, with strong demographic appeal across multiple age groups." His analysis reflected the purely financial perspective that drove franchise investment decisions. Marcus nodded enthusiastically, seamlessly transitioning between his roles as martial arts instructor and business entrepreneur. "Our comprehensive training system ensures consistent quality across all franchise locations," he assured them, while maintaining the flexibility to adapt to local market conditions and customer preferences. Elena continued working methodically, noting how the conversation gradually shifted from martial arts instruction to operational logistics and revenue optimization. The investors viewed the academy primarily as a profitable business model, rather than a vehicle for preserving traditional martial arts knowledge and philosophy. Master Chen observed the proceedings from his elevated platform, his expression maintaining diplomatic neutrality despite obvious discomfort with the commercial direction of the discussion. The elderly instructor had dedicated his life to authentic martial arts transmission, making the current emphasis on profit maximization particularly difficult to witness. The business meeting extended well beyond the scheduled timeframe, with investors requesting additional demonstrations and detailed explanations of training methodologies. Marcus accommodated every request with obvious pleasure, clearly relishing the opportunity to position himself as the Academy's primary representative and future business partner. Elena completed her assigned tasks while remaining available for any additional cleaning requirements that might arise from the extended gathering. The investors had consumed considerable quantities of the jasmine tea and light refreshments that Master Chen traditionally offered to honored guests. As the afternoon progressed, the conversation became increasingly animated, with investors proposing aggressive expansion timelines and Marcus expressing confidence in his ability to oversee multiple franchise locations simultaneously. Their enthusiasm fed on itself, creating momentum toward partnership agreements that would fundamentally alter the Academy's character and mission. "I believe we have sufficient information to proceed with preliminary agreements," the lead investor announced, gathering documents and business cards while expressing satisfaction with the day's presentations. "Our legal team will review the franchise terms and contact you within the week regarding next steps." Marcus accepted their commitment with obvious satisfaction, though Elena detected subtle signs of nervous energy that suggested anxiety beneath his confident exterior. The success of his business venture depended partly on maintaining the performance standards he had demonstrated, a challenge that would test his abilities under sustained pressure. The visitors departed with warm expressions of mutual interest and promises of rapid follow-up communication. Marcus escorted them to the parking area, continuing his sales presentation until their vehicles disappeared from view. Elena observed his return to the academy, noting the slight deflation in his posture that suggested emotional exhaustion following his extended performance. Maintaining the level of charm and confidence required for successful investor relations demanded considerable psychological energy, even for someone naturally inclined towards self-promotion. Master Chen approached Marcus as he re-entered the training area, his expression carefully neutral despite obvious concerns about the afternoon's developments. "The demonstration proceeded smoothly," he acknowledged diplomatically, though his tone carried subtle reservation about the commercial focus of the presentation. "They seemed genuinely impressed with our methods and facilities," Marcus replied, his enthusiasm still evident despite growing fatigue. "The franchise opportunities could provide tremendous growth potential for expanding traditional martial arts instruction to underserved markets." Elena continued organizing equipment while listening to their conversation, noting the fundamental disconnect between Master Chen's educational priorities and Marcus's business ambitions. The elderly instructor valued depth of understanding and authentic transmission of martial knowledge, while Marcus focused on scalable systems and profit optimization. "Traditional methods require considerable time to master properly," Master Chen observed carefully, his words carrying gentle warning about the challenges of rapid expansion. "Authentic instruction cannot be rushed or simplified without losing essential elements that distinguish genuine martial arts from mere physical exercise." Marcus nodded politely, though his response suggested limited understanding of the instructor's deeper concerns. "Modern students appreciate efficient training methods that produce measurable results within reasonable time frames," he countered. "Our systematic approach eliminates unnecessary complexity while maintaining core principles." Elena recognized the classic conflict between authentic martial arts transmission and commercial martial arts instruction, a tension that had existed throughout the modern history of Eastern fighting systems in Western contexts. Marcus's approach prioritized marketability over authenticity, while Master Chen represented traditional values that might not translate effectively to franchise environments. The conversation concluded with diplomatic expressions of mutual respect, though neither participant seemed entirely satisfied with the exchange. Marcus retreated to the changing area to remove his GI and prepare for departure, while Master Chen remained on his platform, apparently deep in contemplation about the Academy's future direction. Elena completed her cleaning duties as the Academy settled into its evening quiet, the day's activities concluded and equipment secured for overnight storage. Master Chen's presence provided continuity with the traditional values that had originally attracted serious students to the Golden Dragon Academy. "Elena," Master Chen called softly as she prepared to leave for the evening. His tone carried the weight of someone wrestling with difficult decisions about preserving principles while adapting to changing circumstances. She approached his platform respectfully, noting the deep concern in his weathered features. The elderly instructor had devoted decades to building the Academy's reputation for authentic instruction and traditional values, making the current commercial pressures particularly challenging to navigate. "Change brings both opportunity and risk," he said quietly, his words chosen with characteristic care. "Wisdom lies in distinguishing between evolution that strengthens essential qualities and transformation that corrupts fundamental purpose." His observation carried philosophical depth while addressing immediate practical concerns. Elena nodded respectfully, understanding that Master Chen was processing complex emotions about the Academy's potential future under franchise management. His dedication to authentic martial arts transmission conflicted with Marcus's commercial ambitions, creating tension that would inevitably require resolution. "The true test of any martial artist," Master Chen continued, "occurs when external pressures challenge internal values. Maintaining authenticity requires courage, especially when compromise offers easier paths to apparent success." His words carried personal weight, reflecting decades of experience navigating similar challenges. The elderly instructor's wisdom resonated with Elena's own struggles to maintain integrity while adapting to circumstances beyond her control. Both faced choices between authenticity and survival, though expressed through vastly different contexts and consequences. "Thank you for your consistent dedication to maintaining our training environment," Master Chen concluded, his gratitude sincere despite the formal nature of their relationship. "Students benefit from your care, even when they fail to recognize or acknowledge your contributions." Elena bowed respectfully before gathering her belongings and departing for the evening. The Academy's corridors echoed with the phantom sounds of training sessions and philosophical discussions, while she transitioned from her hidden professional identity to her authentic role as Sofia's mother. The drive home provided opportunity for reflection about the day's events and their potential implications for her carefully maintained anonymity. Marcus's business success could attract additional attention to the Academy, increasing scrutiny that might eventually expose inconsistencies in her background or capabilities. Sofia greeted her return with characteristic enthusiasm, sharing stories about school projects and playground adventures while they prepared their simple dinner together. Elena listened attentively, treasuring these moments of genuine connection that made every sacrifice worthwhile. Their evening routine proceeded with comfortable familiarity, homework assistance followed by shared reading time, that transported them both beyond the constraints of their modest circumstances. Elena tucked Sofia into bed with the same gentle care that defined every aspect of their relationship. Later, alone with her thoughts, Elena considered the growing complexity of her situation at the Golden Dragon Academy. Marcus's business ambitions could fundamentally alter the training environment, potentially creating opportunities for her own exposure, while threatening the traditional values that attracted serious martial artists. The irony remained constant, her extensive knowledge and experience hidden while observing instruction that could benefit from her insights and corrections. Elena possessed capabilities that could dramatically improve student outcomes, though revealing them would jeopardize the stability that Sofia required. Tomorrow would bring another day of invisible service, cleaning equipment and organizing supplies while observing interactions that tested her commitment to anonymity. Marcus's success with the investors had increased his confidence and authority within the academy, potentially making him more likely to assert dominance through public demonstrations. Elena's reflection was interrupted by Sofia's sleepy voice requesting a glass of water, a simple need that immediately redirected her attention to maternal responsibilities. She responded without hesitation, her love manifest in countless small actions that created security and warmth. Standing in the darkened hallway afterward, Elena reminded herself that maintaining their current life required continued sacrifice of her authentic identity. Sofia deserved stability and education without the complications that would inevitably follow any revelation of her mother's true capabilities. The price of that peace was Elena's ongoing submission to circumstances that contradicted everything she had once been, accepting treatment that her former self would never have tolerated. Tomorrow she would return to the Golden Dragon Academy, invisible and dismissed, while Marcus Sterling continued building his reputation on foundations that might not withstand genuine scrutiny. But the delicate balance Elena had worked so carefully to maintain was approaching its breaking point, though she could not yet foresee the specific circumstances that would force her hand. The quiet woman who cleaned their mats carried secrets that would soon collide with Marcus's need to prove his superiority in ways that would shatter more than just his ego. In her dreams that night, Elena found herself in competition rings where every technique carried the weight of years spent perfecting her craft, where respect was earned through demonstrated skill rather than granted through social position. She woke before dawn with her hands unconsciously positioned in defensive configurations, muscle memory responding to phantom threats that existed only in the space between sleep and consciousness. The atmosphere inside the Golden Dragon Academy crackled with anticipation, as Marcus Sterling prepared for what he privately considered his coronation as the facility's premier instructor. Word of his successful investor meeting had spread throughout the martial arts community, drawing curious observers and potential students eager to witness the skills that had impressed serious business professionals. Elena arrived for her evening shift to find the academy buzzing with unusual energy. Conversations focused on Marcus's impending demonstration and the franchise opportunities that could revolutionize martial arts instruction throughout the Pacific Northwest. Master Chen moved through the gathering crowd with diplomatic grace, acknowledging greetings while maintaining the careful neutrality that had served him well throughout decades of navigating complex social dynamics. The elderly instructor understood that tonight's events would determine the academy's future direction, though he remained uncertain whether that change would honor or compromise the traditional values he had spent his lifetime preserving. Elena began her preparations with heightened awareness, noting details that suggested this evening would test the boundaries of her carefully maintained anonymity. The crowd included several local martial arts instructors, competition judges, and prominent members of the regional fighting community, creating an environment where expertise would be scrutinized by genuinely knowledgeable observers. Marcus appeared in his competition GI, the pristine white fabric bearing embroidered rank indicators and tournament patches that announced his credentials to anyone familiar with martial arts achievement standards. His black belt carried the precise creases that spoke of meticulous care, while his posture radiated the confidence of someone completely comfortable being the center of attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus began, his voice carrying easily across the training floor, "tonight represents more than a simple demonstration. We're witnessing the evolution of traditional martial arts instruction into a systematic approach that can benefit practitioners at every skill level. His opening statement established both his authority and his vision for transforming ancient fighting systems into modern educational products. Elena continued organizing equipment while observing the crowd's reaction to Marcus's presentation. Several experienced martial artists exchanged glances that suggested skepticism about his claims, though they maintained polite attention as he outlined his philosophy and methods. The key to effective instruction, Marcus continued, lies in understanding how traditional techniques can be adapted to contemporary learning preferences without compromising their essential effectiveness. He gestured toward the Academy's trophy display, visual evidence of success that supported his credibility as both practitioner and teacher. The demonstration began with solo kata, Marcus executing traditional forms with precision that satisfied casual observers while revealing subtle inconsistencies to Elena's trained eye. His movements prioritized visual impact over practical application, emphasizing techniques that would impress spectators rather than prove effective in genuine confrontation scenarios. Elena noted how Marcus modified classical stances to accommodate his preferred fighting style, alterations that improved his appearance while potentially compromising the biomechanical principles that made traditional techniques effective. His performance remained impressive by conventional standards, though she detected defensive habits that suggested limitations in his foundational training. Several Academy students joined Marcus for partner demonstrations, allowing him to showcase throwing techniques and defensive applications while maintaining complete control over the interaction outcomes. Elena watched him guide newer practitioners through choreographed exchanges, his instruction competent but lacking the deeper insights that distinguished authentic masters from skilled performers. Notice how proper positioning eliminates most defensive options for the opponent, Marcus explained while demonstrating a hip throw against a compliant partner. Traditional techniques become devastating when applied with modern understanding of biomechanics and psychology. His analysis combined legitimate technical knowledge with marketing language designed to appeal to students seeking rapid progress. The crowd responded positively to his explanations, particularly newer practitioners who appreciated the systematic approach he brought to techniques that often seemed mysterious or overly complex when taught through traditional methods. Elena recognized the appeal of his presentation, even while understanding its fundamental limitations. "Would any of our guests like to participate in a brief training exercise?" Marcus offered, scanning the audience for potential volunteers. Hands-on experience provides better understanding than theoretical explanation alone. His invitation carried practiced confidence, the assurance of someone accustomed to controlled interactions with inexperienced participants. Dr. Amanda Richards, a sports medicine physician who had recently begun training at the Academy, stepped forward with obvious curiosity. "I've been working on basic self-defense techniques," she admitted, accepting Marcus's guidance as he positioned her for a simple demonstration. Elena paused in her work to observe the interaction, noting how Marcus adjusted his technique to ensure successful execution while maintaining the appearance of spontaneous instruction. The demonstration proceeded smoothly, with Dr. Richards successfully completing a basic escape technique under Marcus's careful supervision. "Excellent natural reflexes," Marcus praised, helping his volunteer return to her starting position with theatrical gallantry. Medical professionals often demonstrate immediate aptitude for martial arts principles due to their understanding of human anatomy and movement patterns. His compliment served multiple purposes, flattering the participant while reinforcing his expertise as an instructor capable of identifying and developing talent. The positive interaction encouraged additional volunteers, with Marcus seamlessly adapting his demonstrations to accommodate different skill levels and physical capabilities. Elena recognized his genuine talent for reading people and adjusting his approach to their personalities and motivations, skills that contributed significantly to his success as both instructor and businessman. "The beauty of systematic instruction," Marcus explained while guiding another volunteer through a defensive technique, "lies in its ability to accelerate learning by eliminating trial-and-error approaches that waste time and increase injury risk." His methodology appealed to modern students seeking efficient paths to martial arts competency. Elena returned her attention to equipment organization, though she remained peripherally aware of the ongoing demonstration. Marcus's confidence seemed to grow with his audience's positive reception, his natural showmanship amplified by the presence of experienced martial artists whose approval carried significant weight within the regional community. "I'd be happy to provide individual assessments for anyone interested in understanding their natural fighting aptitude," Marcus offered, his proposal designed to create additional interaction opportunities while demonstrating his analytical capabilities to potential students and business partners. Master Chen observed the proceedings from his elevated platform, his expression maintaining diplomatic neutrality despite obvious tension about the commercial direction of the presentation. The elderly instructor valued depth of understanding over marketing appeal, making the current emphasis on systematic efficiency particularly difficult to witness. Elena completed her assigned tasks while the demonstration continued, noting how the conversation gradually shifted from traditional martial arts philosophy to practical applications and measurable progress indicators. Marcus's approach reflected contemporary educational preferences that prioritized quantifiable results over spiritual development or cultural preservation. The formal demonstration concluded with Marcus executing an impressive kata that showcased his technical precision and physical conditioning. The audience responded with enthusiastic applause, their appreciation genuine, despite the performance-oriented nature of his presentation. "Before we conclude tonight's program," Marcus announced, his voice carrying renewed confidence from the positive reception, "I'd like to address a fundamental principle that distinguishes authentic martial artists from casual practitioners." His transition suggested a shift toward more serious technical discussion. Elena continued organizing supplies while monitoring the change in atmosphere, noting increased attention from the experienced practitioners who had remained somewhat reserved during the earlier demonstrations. Marcus's promise of deeper content seemed to engage their professional interest. "True martial arts mastery," Marcus continued, "requires the ability to instantly assess an opponent's capabilities through observation of their stance, movement patterns, and psychological demeanor." His analysis reflected legitimate traditional concepts, though Elena detected subtle oversimplifications that suggested incomplete understanding. "For example," he said, scanning the room with theatrical intensity, "I could evaluate any individual's fighting potential within seconds of observing their basic positioning and reflexes." His claim carried the confident authority that had impressed the franchise investors, though it represented dangerous territory for someone whose expertise might not withstand genuine scrutiny. Elena tensed almost imperceptibly, recognizing the setup for a demonstration that could force unwanted interaction. Marcus's need to prove his analytical capabilities might lead him to select participants whose responses could reveal more than he anticipated about their backgrounds or training. "The untrained eye sees only surface details," Marcus explained, while experienced practitioners recognize subtle indicators that reveal years of development or the absence thereof. His exposition built toward what appeared to be a practical demonstration of his assessment abilities. Several experienced martial artists in the audience exchanged knowing glances, their expressions suggesting interest in seeing whether Marcus could deliver on his analytical claims when faced with genuine testing rather than controlled demonstrations with compliant volunteers. "Stance evaluation provides the most reliable indicator of authentic training," Marcus continued, his voice carrying growing confidence. "Proper weight distribution, defensive positioning, and unconscious movement habits reveal everything about a practitioner's true capabilities." His technical knowledge remained accurate within conventional parameters, though Elena detected gaps that suggested limitations in his exposure to diverse fighting systems. "I notice we have several Academy staff members present tonight," Marcus observed, his gaze beginning to sweep across the room with analytical intensity. "Perhaps one of them would be willing to participate in a brief assessment demonstration." His proposal carried casual authority, the assumption that support personnel would naturally defer to his request. Elena felt the familiar tightening in her chest that accompanied moments when her carefully constructed anonymity faced potential exposure. She maintained focus on her assigned tasks while monitoring Marcus's movement patterns, calculating exit routes, and response options with unconscious precision. Effective stance evaluation requires observing natural positioning rather than deliberately adopted poses, Marcus explained to his audience. Most people reveal their true training background through unconscious habits that emerge during normal activity. His analysis reflected legitimate understanding, making his demonstration potentially more dangerous for Elena's continued concealment. Master Chen's expression shifted subtly, though he remained diplomatically silent as Marcus continued building toward his assessment demonstration. The elderly instructor understood the risks inherent in Marcus's approach, particularly given his incomplete knowledge of the Academy's staff backgrounds and capabilities. "Excuse me," Marcus called out, his attention focusing on Elena as she organized cleaning supplies near the training area. "Would you mind assisting with a brief demonstration? I promise it will only take a moment." His request carried the polite authority of someone accustomed to immediate compliance from service personnel. Elena straightened slowly, her movement controlled, despite the internal tension his request created. Every instinct developed through years of maintaining anonymity urged her to decline politely and withdraw from the situation, while her professional pride bristled at the casual dismissal implicit in his selection of her as a convenient demonstration subject. "I'm simply working," she replied quietly, her tone respectful but offering no encouragement for continued interaction. Her response attempted to deflect his attention without creating confrontation that might draw additional scrutiny. "Precisely why you're perfect for this demonstration," Marcus replied with practiced charm, apparently interpreting her reluctance as modest embarrassment rather than deliberate avoidance. Authentic assessment requires observing individuals in their natural state rather than artificial poses. The crowd's attention focused on their interaction, creating social pressure that made Elena's continued resistance increasingly difficult without appearing unreasonably uncooperative. Marcus had effectively trapped her between compliance and behavior that might seem suspicious to observers familiar with normal social dynamics. Elena glanced briefly toward Master Chen, seeking some indication of support or intervention, but found the elderly instructor maintaining careful neutrality that suggested he would not interfere with Marcus's demonstration unless absolutely necessary. His position required balancing multiple competing interests, making intervention politically complex despite personal concerns. "I assure you this will be completely non-contact," Marcus added, sensing her hesitation and misinterpreting its source. "Simply stand naturally and allow me to demonstrate how professional assessment identifies training indicators through observational analysis." His explanation attempted to address safety concerns while maintaining pressure for her participation. Elena recognized that continued resistance would create more attention than compliance, potentially leading to questions about her background that could prove far more dangerous than Marcus's superficial assessment capabilities. She moved toward the center of the training area with controlled reluctance, her positioning unconsciously optimizing defensive options while appearing to submit to his request. "Perfect," Marcus announced to his audience. "Notice how she naturally maintains balanced weight distribution despite obvious nervousness about being observed. This suggests either natural athletic ability or some previous exposure to physical training." His initial assessment contained enough accuracy to seem impressive while remaining safely generic. Elena stood quietly, allowing Marcus to circle her while providing commentary about stance evaluation principles. She focused on maintaining the posture of someone uncomfortable with attention, rather than someone consciously controlling their positioning for tactical advantage. The key indicators include foot placement, shoulder alignment, and unconscious hand positioning, Marcus explained while gesturing toward Elena's stance. "Notice how she instinctively maintains mobility despite appearing stationary, suggesting reflexes that have been developed through some form of physical training." His analysis continued to demonstrate legitimate observational skills while remaining within boundaries that Elena could manage without revealing her true capabilities. She maintained controlled breathing and neutral expression while calculating how long the demonstration might continue before social pressure allowed graceful withdrawal. "Now for the practical assessment," Marcus announced, his confidence building with his audience's attentive reception. "I'm going to simulate a basic attack scenario to observe natural defensive reflexes. This will reveal whether her apparent physical conditioning translates to functional self-defense capability." Elena's tension spiked immediately, recognizing that any simulated attack would trigger muscle memory and defensive responses that could expose years of advanced training. Her carefully maintained anonymity faced potential destruction through reflexes too deeply ingrained to consciously suppress under sudden pressure. "Wait," she said quietly, attempting to halt the demonstration before it progressed beyond manageable parameters. "I'd rather not participate in contact scenarios." Her protest carried legitimate concern while avoiding explanations that might reveal her true reluctance. "Completely understandable," Marcus replied with patronizing reassurance, "which is why this will be purely simulated movement designed to observe natural responses rather than actual defensive techniques." His dismissal of her concerns reflected confidence in his ability to control the interaction while maintaining educational value for his audience. Master Chen rose from his platform, apparently deciding that intervention was necessary despite political complications. Perhaps we should conclude tonight's demonstration, he suggested diplomatically, allowing our guests to discuss what they've observed while refreshments are prepared. Marcus paused, clearly reluctant to abandon his assessment demonstration just as it approached the most impressive phase. His audience remained engaged and curious about the results of his practical evaluation, making Master Chen's intervention seem premature and potentially face-threatening. "With respect, Master Chen," Marcus replied carefully, "this educational demonstration requires only a few more minutes to complete effectively. I'm confident our staff member will find the experience both safe and informative." His response balanced deference to the Academy's owner with assertion of his own authority as the evening's featured instructor. Elena found herself trapped between competing pressures, unable to withdraw without seeming unreasonably difficult while facing exposure that could destroy the carefully constructed life she had built for Sofia's protection. The crowd's expectant attention made escape increasingly impossible without creating exactly the kind of memorable scene she desperately needed to avoid. "Very well," she agreed quietly, accepting that managing the situation required calculated cooperation rather than continued resistance. "But please keep it brief." Her submission carried resignated acceptance while allowing her to establish some parameters for the interaction. Marcus nodded with obvious satisfaction, positioning himself for what appeared to be a basic grab defense scenario. "I'm simply going to reach toward her arm," he explained to the audience, observing how she responds to perceived threat through positioning and reflexive movement. Elena prepared herself mentally for the challenge of appearing untrained while managing genuine defensive responses, calculating how to appear clumsy or frightened, rather than demonstrating the fluid efficiency that years of competition had made automatic. Her survival depended on convincing performance as someone with minimal self-defense knowledge. Marcus moved toward her with deliberate slowness, telegraphing his intention to grab her wrist while maintaining constant commentary about body language indicators and defensive positioning. Elena tracked his approach with peripheral vision while forcing her posture to remain static rather than shifting into optimal defensive alignment. The moment his fingers touched her wrist, decades of training exploded through Elena's nervous system like lightning through water. The contact triggered responses so deeply programmed that conscious control became impossible, her body reacting with the devastating efficiency that had once made her legendary in competition circles. Her hand rotated with surgical precision, breaking Marcus's grip before he could establish control while simultaneously stepping into range for a counterattack. The movement flowed with liquid grace that contradicted every assumption about her background and capabilities, revealing martial arts mastery that belonged in championship venues rather than academy cleaning closets. Marcus stumbled backward, startled by the unexpected resistance and the speed with which Elena had reversed their positioning. His confident expression shifted to confusion as he tried to process what had just occurred, his analytical framework unable to accommodate the evidence of her response. The training floor fell silent, every conversation halting as the crowd processed what they had witnessed. Elena stood frozen in a combat stance that revealed decades of advanced training, her positioning perfect, and her balance absolutely centered despite the shock of her own involuntary revelation. "Interesting reflexes," Marcus said slowly, attempting to regain control of the situation while his mind raced to understand what had just happened. "You've obviously had some previous self-defense training." His voice carried uncertainty that contradicted his earlier confident assessments. Elena straightened carefully, forcing her posture back toward the unthreatening stance of someone embarrassed by unexpected attention. "I took a few classes years ago," she offered quietly, attempting to minimize the implications of what everyone had clearly observed. But the damage was done, her cover blown by the very responses that had once made her name whispered with reverence in fighting circles around the world. Master Chen's expression shifted from diplomatic concern to sharp interest, his experienced eye recognizing techniques that belonged to elite levels of martial arts development. "Perhaps we could continue this assessment," Marcus suggested, his voice carrying new edge that suggested wounded pride rather than educational curiosity. "Your defensive response indicates significantly more training than casual classes would provide." His challenge carried implicit accusation about deception regarding her background. Elena realized that her carefully constructed anonymity was crumbling beyond repair, the demonstration having exposed capabilities that no reasonable explanation could adequately dismiss. The crowd's attention focused on her with intensity that made further concealment impossible, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright suspicion about her true identity. "I'd rather not continue," she replied firmly, attempting to establish boundaries before the situation deteriorated further. "I'm here to work, not to participate in training demonstrations." Her refusal carried new authority that contradicted her previous submissive demeanor. Marcus stepped closer, his body language shifting from instructor mode to competitor mode, as his ego demanded satisfaction for the unexpected challenge to his expertise. "I think our audience deserves to see whether your reflexes translate to actual defensive capability," he said, his tone carrying barely concealed aggression. The crowd sensed the change in atmosphere, conversations resuming in whispered tones as experienced martial artists recognized the potential for genuine confrontation. Elena found herself in the exact situation she had spent years avoiding, facing exposure that threatened not just her own safety, but Sofia's as well. "That won't be necessary," Master Chen interjected firmly, his diplomatic tone replaced by unmistakable authority. "This demonstration has concluded successfully." His intervention carried the weight of ownership and decades of respected leadership within the martial arts community. Marcus paused, clearly frustrated by the interruption just as the assessment had become genuinely interesting. His audience remained engaged and curious about Elena's background, making Master Chen's intervention seem premature and potentially protective rather than appropriately cautious. "With respect," Marcus replied carefully, "authentic assessment requires observing performance under actual pressure rather than simulated scenarios. Our cleaning staff member has demonstrated reflexes that suggest significant training, making her an ideal subject for advanced evaluation techniques." Elena recognized that Marcus's ego had transformed educational demonstration into personal challenge, his need to maintain dominance overriding any concern for her comfort or consent. The situation was spiraling beyond her ability to control through passive resistance or diplomatic withdrawal. "I said no," she stated clearly, her voice carrying authority that surprised everyone present, including herself. The words emerged with command presence that belonged to someone accustomed to being obeyed, revealing another layer of her carefully hidden identity. Marcus stepped closer, apparently interpreting her refusal as challenge rather than boundary setting. "I'm beginning to suspect," he said loudly enough for the entire audience to hear, "that our academy cleaning staff includes individuals whose backgrounds might be more interesting than their current positions suggest." The crowd's attention intensified, sensing potential drama that promised to be far more entertaining than standard martial arts demonstration. Elena felt the weight of scrutiny from dozens of eyes, many belonging to experienced practitioners whose expertise could identify inconsistencies in any story she might construct about her background. "That's quite enough," Master Chen declared, moving from his platform toward the training floor with obvious intention to terminate the confrontation. "This demonstration has exceeded appropriate boundaries and will conclude immediately." His tone carried finality that brooked no argument, but Marcus had committed himself too completely to retreat gracefully, his reputation within the academy and broader martial arts community now dependent on proving his analytical capabilities against someone who had already demonstrated unexpected resistance to his authority. "Just one simple technique demonstration," he pressed, positioning himself in what was clearly preparation for actual combat rather than educational exhibition. Nothing elaborate, just a basic throw to confirm whether her defensive reflexes translate to offensive capability. Elena realized that continued avoidance was impossible without appearing weak or suspicious, while participation risked revealing skills that would make her current life unsustainable. Every option led toward exposure that threatened the stability she had sacrificed everything to provide for Sofia. The moment stretched with tension as the crowd waited to see how the confrontation would resolve, their expectations creating pressure that made graceful withdrawal increasingly difficult for either participant. Elena found herself facing the choice between maintaining her cover and protecting her daughter's future security. Marcus moved without further warning, lunging forward in what appeared to be a standard grab attempt but carried real speed and intention behind it. His patience with controlled demonstration had ended, replaced by genuine desire to prove his superiority over someone who had inadvertently challenged his expertise. Elena's response was pure instinct, decades of training bypassing conscious thought as she sidestepped his attack and established wrist control with textbook precision. Her movement flowed with efficiency that belonged in championship venues, revealing mastery that had been forged through countless hours of dedicated practice, and refined under competitive pressure. Before Marcus could adjust to her unexpected positioning, Elena had rotated into perfect hip placement for a classical agoshi throw. Her technique combined traditional mechanics with competition-tested refinements, creating leverage that made Marcus's size and strength advantages completely irrelevant. The throw executed with surgical precision, Marcus's body describing a perfect arc through the air before landing heavily on the training mat with a sound that echoed through the stunned silence. Elena's follow-through positioned her for immediate ground control, though she stopped short of applying additional technique. The academy fell completely silent, every conversation halting as the crowd processed what they had just witnessed. Marcus lay motionless for several seconds, winded and obviously struggling to comprehend how the academy's cleaning staff had just executed a throw that would have impressed competition judges. Elena straightened slowly, forcing her posture back toward unthreatening stance while her heart raced with adrenaline and fear about the implications of her involuntary revelation. The technique had emerged with competition-level precision that no casual explanation could adequately dismiss. Master Chen moved quickly to check on Marcus, who was beginning to sit up with obvious embarrassment and confusion. The elderly instructor's expression carried deep concern about the evening's unexpected turn toward genuine confrontation rather than controlled demonstration. "That was remarkable," Dr. Richards said quietly, her medical training allowing her to appreciate the biomechanical precision of Elena's technique. "I've never seen anyone execute a throw with such perfect form under actual pressure." Her assessment carried professional authority that made denial impossible. Elena realized that her carefully constructed life had just collapsed beyond repair, the demonstration having exposed capabilities that no reasonable story could explain away. The crowd's attention focused on her with intensity that made continued anonymity impossible, their expressions ranging from amazement to suspicion about her true background. Marcus struggled to his feet with obvious difficulty, his pride wounded far more severely than his body. "Where did you learn to throw like that?" he demanded, his voice carrying accusation rather than genuine curiosity. "That technique requires years of advanced training to execute properly." Elena found herself trapped between truth and deception, unable to construct any explanation that would satisfy the experienced martial artists who had witnessed her response. The crowd waited expectantly for her answer, their expertise making any attempt at minimization obviously futile. "I trained seriously for several years," she admitted quietly, offering partial truth while avoiding details that might lead to complete exposure. "It was a long time ago." Her response attempted to acknowledge her capabilities while maintaining some privacy about her background. "Several years doesn't produce technique of that caliber," Marcus countered, his analytical instincts now fully engaged, despite his embarrassing demonstration of their limitations. That throw belonged in international competition, not casual self-defense classes. His assessment carried accuracy that made further minimization impossible. Master Chen approached Elena with obvious intention to intervene before the situation deteriorated further. "Perhaps we should allow our guests to enjoy refreshments while we discuss tonight's events privately," he suggested diplomatically, attempting to provide an escape route from increasingly difficult circumstances. But the crowd showed no inclination to disperse, their curiosity thoroughly aroused by the unexpected revelation of genuine expertise hidden within the Academy's support staff. Several experienced practitioners moved closer, their expressions carrying professional interest in someone whose capabilities had obviously been seriously underestimated. "I recognize that technique," said Sensei Williams, a respected instructor from a neighboring academy who had attended as Master Chen's guest. "That's competition-level judo execution, refined through extensive tournament experience." His identification carried authority that made denial impossible. Elena felt the walls of her carefully constructed identity crumbling as multiple experts began analyzing what they had witnessed. Her single defensive response had revealed training that belonged to elite levels of martial arts development, making her current position as cleaning staff obviously inconsistent. "Where did you compete?" asked another observer, a former Olympic alternate whose expertise in identifying talent was well known throughout the regional martial arts community. "Throws of that caliber indicate serious international experience." His question carried assumption rather than curiosity about her competitive background. Elena realized that continued deception was becoming impossible as expert analysis closed off every avenue for minimizing her revealed capabilities. The crowd included too many knowledgeable practitioners whose experience allowed them to recognize elite-level training when they witnessed it directly. "I'd prefer not to discuss my background," she replied firmly. attempting to establish privacy boundaries while accepting that complete concealment was no longer possible. That part of my life is over. Her response acknowledged capabilities while refusing to provide details that might lead to complete exposure. Marcus had recovered sufficiently to rejoin the conversation, though his movements remained cautious, and his expression carried wounded pride mixed with growing determination to understand what had just occurred. Competition records are public information, he pointed out. Your technique suggests achievements that would be easily verifiable through tournament databases. Elena felt the familiar tightening in her chest that accompanied moments when her past threatened to destroy her present security. The crowd's attention remained focused on her, with intensity that made escape impossible, without creating exactly the kind of memorable scene she desperately needed to avoid. I competed under a different name, she admitted reluctantly, offering minimal information while hoping to satisfy their curiosity without providing specific details that could lead to complete identification. Personal circumstances required privacy. Her explanation attempted to justify secrecy while acknowledging competitive background. The crowd exchanged knowing glances, their expressions suggesting that Elena's admission had only increased rather than satisfied their curiosity about her true identity. Experienced martial artists understood that name changes typically accompanied dramatic life transitions that made interesting stories. Master Chen moved closer, his expression carrying protective concern rather than curiosity about Elena's background. I believe our demonstration has concluded successfully, he announced firmly. Perhaps we should allow our staff to return to their duties while guests enjoy refreshments. His intervention attempted to provide an escape route before questioning became more specific. But Elena realized that her anonymity was beyond recovery. The evening's events having exposed capabilities that would inevitably lead to investigation and discovery of her true identity. The choice now lay between controlled revelation and allowing others to uncover information that might prove far more dangerous than honest explanation. My name was Elena Vasquez Chen, she said quietly, accepting that disclosure was inevitable and hoping that partial truth might limit further investigation. I competed internationally in judo before retiring for personal reasons. Her admission attempted to provide explanation while avoiding details about specific achievements that might trigger recognition. The crowd stirred with obvious excitement as several practitioners began recognizing the implications of her revelation. Elena Vasquez Chen was a name that carried legendary status within international judo circles, associated with achievements that belonged among the sport's greatest competitors. Elena Vasquez Chen won 3 consecutive world championships, Sensei Williams said quietly, his voice carrying awe rather than accusation. She was considered the greatest female judoka of her generation before disappearing from competition without explanation. His identification completed Elena's exposure while explaining the crowd's growing excitement. Elena felt the last vestiges of her carefully constructed anonymity dissolve as recognition spread through the crowd. Her former identity carried fame that made continued concealment impossible, while her current circumstances raised obvious questions about the dramatic life changes that had brought her to the Golden Dragon Academy's cleaning staff. Marcus stared at her with obvious shock, finally understanding the magnitude of his miscalculation in selecting her for demonstration purposes. He had challenged someone whose achievements dwarfed his own competitive record, making his earlier confident assessments seem ridiculous in retrospect. 3 world championships, he repeated slowly, apparently struggling to process the revelation that the Academy's cleaning staff included one of judo's most accomplished competitors. You're supposed to be legendary. His tone carried confusion rather than respect, as if her current position contradicted everything he thought he understood about championship-level athletes. Elena straightened with dignity that had been temporarily suppressed, but never truly abandoned, accepting that her hidden identity was beyond recovery. I am exactly who I choose to be, she replied with quiet authority. Titles belong to the past. My current life serves different purposes. Her response acknowledged former achievements while asserting her right to determine her own identity and priorities. The crowd's attention intensified as they processed the implications of discovering genuine martial arts royalty working anonymously within their community. Elena's presence represented the kind of authentic mastery that most practitioners could only dream of encountering, making the evening's events historically significant for everyone present. Master Chen's expression shifted to profound respect as he fully understood the honor that Elena's presence had brought to his academy. You have been most gracious to work among us, he said formally, bowing with the deep respect reserved for legendary masters. Your humility brings honor to our training hall. His acknowledgement carried weight that transformed the evening's dynamic from confrontation to recognition ceremony. Elena accepted his bow with equal formality, her posture unconsciously shifting into the bearing that had once commanded respect in competition venues around the world. The transformation was remarkable, revealing the authentic master who had been hidden beneath carefully constructed anonymity. "My circumstances required discretion," she explained, addressing the crowd's obvious curiosity about her dramatic change in status. "My daughter's security depends on maintaining privacy about certain aspects of my background." Her explanation provided context while establishing boundaries about further investigation. The mention of her daughter created immediate understanding among the parents present, their expressions shifting from curiosity to protective respect for someone whose choices were driven by maternal responsibility rather than personal preference. Elena's sacrifice of fame for family created emotional connection that transcended mere athletic achievement. "Your secret is safe with all of us," Dr. Richards assured her, speaking for the group with obvious sincerity. "Parents understand the sacrifices necessary to protect our children." Her statement carried authority that seemed to create immediate consensus among the crowd about respecting Elena's privacy. Marcus remained silent, apparently still processing the reality that his analytical demonstration had exposed someone whose achievements made his own competitive record seem modest by comparison. His wounded pride warred with genuine admiration for accomplishments that represented the pinnacle of international martial arts competition. "I should apologize," he said finally, his voice carrying genuine humility for the first time that evening. "My assessment capabilities were obviously inadequate for evaluating someone of your caliber." His acknowledgement represented significant character growth, though Elena recognized that his ego would require time to fully process the evening's revelations. Elena accepted his apology with gracious dignity, understanding that his behavior had emerged from ignorance rather than malice. "You could not have known," she replied simply. "My presence here was intended to avoid exactly this kind of recognition." Her response carried forgiveness while maintaining appropriate boundaries about future interactions. Master Chen approached with obvious intention to discuss the evening's implications for the Academy's future operation. "Your revealed presence creates opportunities that extend far beyond tonight's demonstration," he said carefully. "Students would benefit tremendously from your knowledge and experience." His proposal carried diplomatic suggestion rather than pressure, respecting her right to determine her own level of involvement. Elena considered his words while calculating the implications for her carefully structured life with Sofia. Public revelation of her identity made continued anonymity impossible, though controlled disclosure might allow her to remain in Portland while providing some security for her daughter's continued stability. "I would be honored to share knowledge that might benefit serious students," she replied thoughtfully, "though my primary responsibility remains my daughter's welfare and education." Her response acknowledged willingness to contribute while establishing clear priorities that would guide any future involvement. The crowd dispersed gradually as Elena and Master Chen continued their discussion, individual practitioners approaching to express respect and gratitude for the unexpected honor of witnessing authentic mastery. Their responses carried genuine appreciation rather than celebrity worship, reflecting the martial arts community's deep respect for technical excellence and dedicated achievement. Elena found herself surrounded by sincere expressions of admiration and requests for future instruction, her revealed identity having transformed her from invisible staff member to honored master within the space of a single evening. The transition felt surreal after months of careful anonymity, though she recognized that adaptation would be necessary for both her and Sofia's continued welfare. As the academy settled into evening quiet, Elena completed her cleaning duties with renewed awareness of her changed circumstances. Tomorrow would bring conversations with Sofia about altered living conditions and modified security arrangements, though the fundamental commitment to her daughter's protection and education would remain unchanged. Master Chen's offer of legitimate teaching opportunities provided potential solutions to financial concerns while allowing her to honor the martial arts knowledge that had been suppressed but never abandoned. Elena's expertise could benefit countless students while creating sustainable income that eliminated dependence on anonymity for basic survival. The irony was profound, her careful concealment having been destroyed by the very skills she had tried to hide, yet leading toward opportunities that might prove superior to the isolation she had endured. Elena's journey from legendary competitor to anonymous staff member to honored instructor represented transformation that few people could imagine, though each phase had been driven by love for her daughter and commitment to their shared future. Standing in the empty academy, Elena allowed herself a moment of honest reflection about the evening's events and their implications for the life she had built in Portland. Sofia deserved truth about her mother's background and capabilities, though delivered with appropriate context about the choices that had led to their current circumstances. Tomorrow would begin a new chapter in their shared story, one that honored Elena's authentic identity, while maintaining the security and stability that Sofia required for healthy development. The challenge lay in balancing public recognition with private protection, creating space for both championship legacy and maternal dedication. Elena gathered her belongings and prepared to leave the Golden Dragon Academy for the final time as anonymous cleaning staff, accepting that future visits would occur in her authentic identity as one of judo's greatest champions. The transformation felt both liberating and terrifying, though she recognized that adaptation had always been essential for survival and success. The drive home provided opportunity for reflection about conversations that awaited with Sofia, explanations that would reveal family history while maintaining age-appropriate boundaries about certain experiences and challenges. Elena's daughter deserved to understand her heritage while being protected from aspects of that legacy that could prove overwhelming or dangerous. Sofia greeted her mother's return with characteristic enthusiasm, sharing stories about homework completion and television programs while they prepared their simple dinner together. Elena listened with heightened awareness of how dramatically their conversation topics might change once Sofia learned about her mother's true background and achievements. Their evening routine proceeded with familiar comfort, though Elena found herself studying her daughter's face and wondering how she would react to learning that her mother had once been among the world's most accomplished athletes. Sofia's pride would undoubtedly be immense, though Elena worried about pressure or expectations that might accompany such knowledge. Later, after Sofia was safely asleep, Elena allowed herself to process the full implications of the evening's exposure and the choices that lay ahead. Her carefully constructed anonymity was beyond recovery, making adaptation essential for both their continued safety and long-term prosperity. The Golden Dragon Academy had offered teaching opportunities that could provide financial stability while honoring her martial arts heritage, though accepting such positions would require sustained interaction with the broader community and inevitable recognition from former competitors and officials. Elena's reflection was interrupted by Sofia's sleepy voice requesting assistance with a nightmare that had awakened her with confusion and fear. She responded immediately, providing comfort and reassurance while marveling at how completely her daughter's needs could redirect her attention from any other concern. Standing in the darkened hallway afterward, Elena reminded herself that every choice and sacrifice had been motivated by love for Sofia and commitment to providing her with opportunities for growth and achievement. Tomorrow's conversations would be challenging, though they might also represent liberation from the exhausting burden of maintaining false identity while suppressing authentic capabilities. The following morning arrived with unusual clarity, sunlight streaming through their modest apartment windows as Elena prepared breakfast while contemplating how to approach the conversation that would forever alter Sofia's understanding of their family history. Her daughter emerged from her bedroom with characteristic energy, chattering about upcoming school projects while unconsciously demonstrating the same natural athleticism that had once defined Elena's own childhood. "Mom, why are you looking at me funny?" Sofia asked, pausing in her enthusiastic description of a science fair experiment to study Elena's contemplative expression. Her perceptive nature had always been remarkable, allowing her to detect emotional undercurrents that other children might miss entirely. Elena settled beside her daughter at their small kitchen table, choosing words carefully while accepting that honesty was both necessary and overdue. "There are some things about our family that I haven't told you," she began gently. "Important things that might help you understand why we've moved so often and why I've been so careful about our privacy." Sofia's attention focused completely on her mother's words, her intuitive understanding recognizing the significance of this moment despite her youth. "Are we in trouble?" she asked quietly, her voice carrying the wisdom of someone who had already experienced enough uncertainty to understand that adult conversations sometimes preceded major life changes. "No, sweetheart," Elena assured her, reaching across the table to take her daughter's hand. "We're not in trouble. But last night at work, something happened that means I can't keep certain secrets anymore." Her explanation attempted to provide reassurance while preparing Sofia for revelations that would require significant mental adjustment. The conversation that followed unfolded with careful pacing, Elena revealing her competitive background and championship achievements while emphasizing how those accomplishments belonged to a different phase of her life. Sofia listened with growing amazement, her expressions shifting from confusion to pride to concern as she began understanding the implications of her mother's hidden identity. "You were really the best in the world?" Sofia asked, her voice carrying awe mixed with confusion about why such achievements had been concealed from her. "Why didn't you ever tell me? I would have been so proud." Her response reflected the natural reaction of someone discovering that their parent possessed capabilities beyond their imagination. Elena explained the circumstances that had forced retirement and the necessity of maintaining anonymity for their mutual protection, though she avoided specific details about threats or dangers that might create unnecessary anxiety. Sofia deserved truth proportionate to her emotional maturity, with complete disclosure reserved for future conversations when she could better process complex realities. "So when you taught me those safety games," Sofia said slowly, "you weren't just being paranoid. You actually knew what you were talking about." Her realization demonstrated the connecting of dots that had been scattered throughout their shared experiences, creating new understanding of behaviors that had previously seemed mysterious or excessive. The morning's revelation transformed their relationship dynamic in subtle but profound ways, Elena's parental authority now reinforced by demonstrated expertise rather than simply maternal concern. Sofia's respect deepened as she began appreciating the sacrifices her mother had made, and the knowledge that had been available but unexpressed throughout their years together. Elena's phone rang during their continued conversation, Master Chen's name appearing on the caller identification, with timing that suggested urgency rather than casual contact. She answered with polite attention, though her primary focus remained on Sofia's emotional processing of their family's revealed history. "Elena." Master Chen's voice carried formal respect that acknowledged her true identity rather than her former position as academy staff. "I hope you slept well despite last evening's unexpected developments." His diplomatic approach suggested careful consideration of appropriate boundaries given their altered relationship dynamic. "Thank you for your concern," Elena replied, noting Sofia's curious attention to the conversation. "We're managing the transition appropriately." Her response acknowledged both personal appreciation and awareness that their circumstances had fundamentally changed within the martial arts community. Master Chen's call revealed that word of Elena's presence had spread throughout the regional martial arts network with predictable speed, generating intense interest from instructors, competitors, and officials who recognized the significance of her revealed identity. Several established academies had already contacted him seeking introduction opportunities, while former competitors were expressing desire to reconnect after years of wondering about her disappearance. "The attention is manageable at present," Master Chen assured her, "though I suspect it will intensify as news spreads beyond our immediate community. Your privacy remains protected by those who witnessed last evening's events, though public acknowledgement of your presence may become inevitable." His assessment reflected realistic understanding of how martial arts communities functioned when legendary figures emerged from retirement or hiding. Elena appreciated his diplomatic handling of the situation, while recognizing that complete privacy was no longer possible regardless of her preferences. The challenge now lay in managing public interest, while maintaining appropriate boundaries about aspects of her background that required continued protection for Sofia's security. Master Chen's primary purpose involved offering Elena legitimate teaching opportunities that could provide financial stability while honoring her expertise and reputation. His academy could benefit tremendously from association with someone of her caliber, while she could find meaningful work that utilized her knowledge rather than suppressing it. "I would be honored to discuss potential arrangements," Elena responded, glancing at Sofia, whose expression carried obvious excitement about her mother's professional opportunities, "though any commitment must accommodate my primary responsibilities as Sofia's mother." Her acknowledgement established clear priorities while expressing willingness to explore possibilities. The conversation concluded with scheduled meeting arrangements that would allow detailed discussion of teaching responsibilities, compensation structures, and scheduling flexibility that honored Elena's parental obligations. Master Chen's offer represented legitimate opportunity for professional growth within her authentic identity rather than continued concealment of capabilities. Sofia's enthusiasm about her mother's revealed background created immediate questions about martial arts training and competitive opportunities, her natural athleticism suddenly carrying new significance given Elena's genetic heritage and available expertise. The conversation that followed explored possibilities for Sofia's own development, while emphasizing choice rather than expectation about athletic pursuits. Elena's approach balanced encouragement of Sofia's interests with awareness that championship-level competition required sacrifices that might not serve her daughter's best interests. The lessons learned through her own career included understanding that athletic achievement, however impressive, represented only one possible path toward fulfillment and success. The remainder of their morning together proceeded with heightened awareness of their altered circumstances, routine activities now colored by Sofia's growing pride in her mother's background, and Elena's relief at abandoning the exhausting pretense of anonymity. Their relationship dynamics shifted toward greater honesty and mutual respect, creating foundation for more authentic interaction. Elena's afternoon meeting with Master Chen confirmed the viability of teaching arrangements that could provide both financial security and professional satisfaction while accommodating her parental responsibilities. The Golden Dragon Academy's reputation would benefit from association with her credentials, while she could find meaningful work that honored rather than suppressed her expertise. The terms discussed included flexible scheduling that prioritized Sofia's school activities and family time, compensation that reflected Elena's unique qualifications and market value, and curriculum development opportunities that could establish innovative training programs. Master Chen's proposal represented genuine partnership rather than simple employment, acknowledging Elena's expertise while respecting her priorities. Elena's acceptance of the teaching position marked the beginning of her return to authentic professional identity after years of deliberate concealment. The transition felt both liberating and anxiety-provoking, her relief at abandoning pretense balanced by concerns about increased visibility and potential security implications. The Academy's announcement of Elena's appointment generated immediate interest from students and parents who recognized the exceptional opportunity to train under someone of her caliber. Enrollment inquiries increased dramatically as word spread throughout the martial arts community about the legendary champion who had emerged from retirement to teach at the Golden Dragon Academy. Elena's first official class attracted capacity attendance, experienced practitioners, and curious beginners, combining to create an atmosphere of anticipation mixed with reverence for her accomplishments. Her teaching style emphasized fundamental principles over flashy techniques, focusing on concepts that could benefit students regardless of their current skill levels or ultimate aspirations. The session proceeded with careful attention to individual student needs while maintaining group cohesion and educational progression. Elena's expertise allowed her to identify technical flaws and provide corrections that could dramatically improve performance, though she emphasized understanding over mere imitation of advanced techniques. Student responses to her instruction were overwhelmingly positive, their appreciation extending beyond mere technical knowledge to encompass the philosophical approach she brought to martial arts education. Elena's emphasis on discipline, respect, and continuous learning reflected traditional values that resonated with serious practitioners seeking authentic instruction. Marcus Sterling attended the class as an observer, his presence carrying obvious tension despite Elena's gracious treatment of his earlier behavior. His wounded pride warred with genuine admiration for instructional capabilities that exceeded his own understanding, creating internal conflict about his position within the Academy's hierarchy. Elena addressed his presence diplomatically, acknowledging his experience while establishing clear boundaries about instructional authority and student respect. Her approach balanced professional courtesy with unmistakable assertion of her superior expertise, creating clarity about their relative positions without unnecessary humiliation. The class concluded with traditional ceremony that honored both ancient customs and contemporary educational objectives, students expressing gratitude for instruction that had exceeded their expectations while establishing foundation for continued learning under Elena's guidance. Their enthusiasm created immediate demand for additional classes and private instruction opportunities. Elena's transition from anonymous staff member to honored instructor represented more than simple career change, symbolizing reclamation of authentic identity that had been suppressed for Sofia's protection. The teaching position allowed her to honor her martial arts heritage while maintaining primary focus on maternal responsibilities and family security. Sofia's attendance at several classes created opportunities for mother-daughter bonding through shared martial arts exploration, though Elena remained careful to avoid pressure about competitive aspirations or expectations about following her career path. Their training together emphasized enjoyment and personal development rather than athletic achievement. The weeks that followed established new routine that balanced Elena's teaching responsibilities with Sofia's educational needs and their family time together. Financial security improved dramatically, while professional satisfaction replaced the frustration of suppressing capabilities that could benefit others through authentic instruction. Elena's reputation within the regional martial arts community continued growing as students and colleagues experienced her teaching capabilities firsthand. Invitations to seminars and competitions began arriving, though she maintained a selective approach that prioritized family stability over professional advancement or recognition seeking. The Golden Dragon Academy's enhanced reputation attracted attention from martial arts publications and documentary filmmakers interested in Elena's story of retirement, concealment, and return to instruction. Her careful management of media attention protected Sofia's privacy while acknowledging legitimate public interest in her unique career trajectory. Marcus Sterling's relationship with Elena evolved from initial antagonism toward grudging respect and eventual genuine admiration for her expertise and character. His willingness to learn from someone whose capabilities so clearly exceeded his own demonstrated personal growth that impressed both Elena and Master Chen. The Academy's expansion under Elena's influence created opportunities for advanced training programs and competitive preparation that attracted elite athletes from throughout the Pacific Northwest. Her reputation as both champion and instructor established the Golden Dragon Academy as a premier destination for serious martial arts education. Elena's success in balancing championship legacy with maternal responsibilities inspired other parents within the martial arts community who struggled with similar challenges. Her example demonstrated that authentic identity and family priorities could coexist when approached with appropriate boundaries and clear values. Sofia's development under her mother's guidance reflected the benefits of having access to world-class instruction combined with unconditional parental support. Her progress in martial arts paralleled academic achievement and social confidence, creating foundation for future success regardless of her ultimate career choices. Elena's journey from legendary competitor to anonymous cleaning staff to honored instructor represented transformation that few people could imagine, though each phase had been driven by love for Sofia and commitment to their shared future. The Academy provided an environment where both could thrive, while honoring their family's unique history and capabilities. The story's conclusion found Elena teaching an advanced class while Sofia practiced nearby, their shared passion for martial arts creating connection that transcended the usual boundaries between parent and child. Elena's achievement in maintaining family unity while reclaiming professional identity demonstrated that authentic success measured dedication to values rather than external recognition alone. Master Chen observed their interaction with satisfaction, understanding that Elena's presence had elevated his academy beyond mere commercial success toward genuine educational excellence. Her influence extended throughout the martial arts community, inspiring students and instructors alike through example of integrity and dedication that honored both tradition and innovation. The Golden Dragon Academy's reputation as a center for authentic martial arts instruction continued growing under Elena's influence, attracting students who sought more than mere physical training. Her emphasis on character development and philosophical understanding created an educational environment that prepared students for challenges extending far beyond competition venues or self-defense situations. Elena's legacy at the Academy would endure long after her eventual departure, her influence having established standards and traditions that honored the deepest values of martial arts education. Students who trained under her guidance carried those lessons throughout their lives, creating ripple effects that extended Elena's impact far beyond her direct instruction. Sofia's future remained bright, with possibilities that honored both her family's heritage and her individual aspirations, Elena's example having demonstrated that strength manifested through service to others rather than dominance over them. Their shared journey from concealment to authenticity provided foundation for whatever challenges or opportunities might await their continued growth together. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.